Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. Happy Easter weekend. Are you doing anything for Easter this weekend? Or do you celebrate Easter even? Do you have fun plans? Are you going to be able to see anybody? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, let's get into the meditation books for today. I brought the 2 Melody Beatty books, and then I also brought A Year of Positive Thinking. So let's get into these, and I also brought my reading glasses. So let's get into these right now. All right, let's start with A Year of Positive Thinking, because I don't feel like I've read from this in a while. Let's see, April 2nd. All right, how to overcome. April 2nd, how to overcome. You overcome by accepting that there is no alternative except to pick yourself up, dust off, and continue moving forward. You don't give up or give in, even on the days you want to, because you know your life matters. Overcoming adversity is what makes you resilient, and resiliency is what allows you to wake up each day with a sense of purpose, regardless of what you are experiencing. It teaches you that the fragility of your experience is not a curse, and it offers a greater vision of renewed possibility. I love this meditation. If you've watched this channel for a while, you know that I've quoted the Maya Angelou quote that Oprah always says, that when you're going through, it's actually incorrect. So hold on, because there's a story to this. But I used to always say, because I thought I had heard her say that when you're going through a major, tragedy in your life or something really hard, a hardship, look up and say thank you, because you're about to learn a very valuable lesson. And I like that quote. I feel like I heard that in some kind of context. But I went back because I wanted to find the actual video clip where Oprah said that. And actually what it is that when you're going through a difficult time in your life, or you're going through some tragedy or whatever, look up and say thank you, because this too shall pass. And, for me, when I saw that video clip, it was so apropos, because it was at this moment that, I really needed to hear that in my life, that, this too shall pass. And it wasn't anything deep that I was going through. It was trivial, but sometimes I think the trivial stuff hits us harder than the deeper issues. I think the deeper issues, sometimes we're kind of programmed to know how to handle that, or at least we allow ourselves the time and, the emotionality to really feel like when you lose somebody, if somebody passes away, or you're going through a breakup, or you move cross country or whatever, or your friend does or whatever, it's like, or a family member or whatever happens, I think that we allow ourselves, or the loss of a pet. I don't think we talk enough about the loss of a pet, and so many of you reach out to me, and because of, having lost Pee-Pee, and us talking about it in videos, so many of you reach out to me and share that, that you've lost a pet recently or whatever. And I just want to say, I really appreciate you guys sharing that with me. But, I think that we allow ourselves during those tragic losses to really allow ourselves to feel the emotions and to work through it, not just get over it. Like I've talked about, I'm not a believer in that we just get over these things. I believe that we have to actually feel the emotions and work through it, which is why, in talking about grieving my mother, that process for me was several years later that I actually started it, because I was so numb for a while. I wasn't feeling any feelings. I cried, and I was, at the funeral, I was a little hysterical and whatever, but I don't remember, I don't know that I could have acknowledged, I don't remember being able to acknowledge, true emotions or feelings, other than just kind of despair and loss, and just, it was surreal. I think when you lose somebody, I'm not talking about when I was a little kid, it was tragic to lose grandparents, but I wasn't that close with them. So then to lose a parent down the road when I really hadn't lost anybody that was that close to me, I think when you lose that first person to you that was really, really close in your life, it's so surreal. It's I can't even imagine my life without that person anymore. So, just FYI, our neighbor's dog is barking nonstop in the backyard, and I have to film this video at some point, so I've waited. So anyway, but dogs bark, so that's part of acceptance in life, right? Anyway, so anyway, but I think that that's such a surreal feeling when you lose somebody that's so close to you, that's been there in your life for so long, that it's so hard. Oh, I see why he's barking now, because people are walking in the woods back there. But anyway, But when the smaller stuff, the more trivial stuff, like, I think that we beat ourselves up over it. It's like, we should be able to, like, move on from this. Like, that's why I hate that word, you know? It's like when you go through a breakup and people say to you, oh, just move on, move on. There are other fish in the sea, you know? Don't you hate when people tell you that? It's like when you're going through a breakup, it's like, just move, you'll get over it, you know? Or it's like when you're going through something, you know, like, I have experienced this recently with a lot of friends of mine, because I have a lot of friends of mine that are, you know, like they become parents recently, or that they have, like, kids that are, like, going to college for the first time, you know, and they have all these new feelings and emotions associated with being a parent. And people look at them and act like, well, like, this is just, like, you should know how to handle this because 9 million trillion other people have dealt with this before. But for that person, it's a new experience. It's an absolutely new experience. It would be like if tomorrow, like, I'm trying to think of an example, you know, but, like, if tomorrow, you know, like, I've lived in recovery for 26 years. So for me to talk about being a sober person is one thing. Like, I talk about it from one point of view. But if somebody tomorrow got sober, it would be a completely different conversation that we would be having, because it's new to them, right? And for me to minimize that and to say, well, your feelings aren't valid or your emotions aren't valid because you're just new to this, like, that's not fair. Like, they have their, you know, emotions and their feelings associated with it too. And they should be able to have those just because it's a new feeling for them, right? So I think in this whole idea of how to overcome, we have to remember that we're resilient, but at the same time, we have to allow ourselves to feel our emotions and our feelings. We have to allow ourselves, you know, to slowly put one foot in front of the other and to feel our emotions appropriately and not allow anybody to rush us through that, you know? It's like I talk about grieving on here a lot. Just because this person, you know, like, they grieved at a faster rate than I did or whatever, doesn't mean that their grieving is any less or any more than mine is, you know? And I think it has so much, when we talk about grieving, it has so much to do with, like, the relationship that you had with that person, the age that you were, the age that they were, the condition of your relationship with them, you know, how they passed, you know? I have friends of mine that lost parents in tragic ways, you know, to car accidents, to taking their own lives, to heart attacks. And that wasn't the case in my life. You know, my case was that I was able to be with my mother in her last moments. And there was closure to that, you know? And so I was able to experience closure on a level that my friends, they weren't given that privilege. They weren't given that honor. And I do see it as an honor and a privilege that I was able to be there during my mother's last moments. You know, what an honor that is, you know? And I talk a lot about, you know, that we allow people to be in our lives for moments, you know, and we're giving them pieces of our lives, you know. I think that birth and death are two of those most exquisite moments ever. Beautiful, amazing moments that people allow us to be present for, you know. And so I do see that friends of mine have suffered greatly because they didn't have the same closure that I did. And for me, I see that as beautiful privilege that just happened as a result of the situation I was in, not because of, you know, whatever. And I feel for my friends. I'm like, it makes me sad, you know? So we can't judge other people's experiences compared to our own. And when we talk about you're resilient and you need to overcome it, yes, we need to remember that. We need to remember. And so I agree with this meditation. It's like, this too shall pass, okay? Whatever you're going through right now, trust me, 5 or 10 years down the road will not feel as prominent as it does now. Some things will still have the same profound effect, you know? It's like, yes, the things that are happening in our lives right now, maybe it might feel like an 8, 9, or a 10 to us, and down the road it'll be a 3, 4, or 5. But that doesn't mean that it won't still have a profound effect on us down the road, if that makes sense, right? But when we look back on situations that have happened in our lives, what we realize is, oh my God, like, I made it through that, you know? I survived, I made it through that, and now I can turn my wounds into wisdom, and I can share my experience with somebody else. And hopefully they can learn from what I've gone through. And maybe then they'll pass their experience on to other people. And that's really how the world works. You know, it really is that simple. It really isn't that deep. You know, when friends of mine call me up, and when I call up friends of mine for, you know, like, suggestions, basically what I'm asking them is, share stories of your life with me. Tell me how you got through this moment. Tell me what worked for you and what didn't work for you. You know, I had a very, very dear friend of mine, she still is a dear friend of mine, that when my mom passed away, her mother had passed away about 1.5 years before me. and her mother had, had taken her life, and it was tragic, and I was, got to be present with her through that whole situation. But when the tables were turned, even though the situation was completely different, like, she literally walked me through every moment. She was like, now this is what the viewing's going to be like, and if you can't handle it, you can walk away, and I'll be standing there, and somebody else will be standing there, and this is what we're going to do for the funeral, and we're going to she walked me through that whole situation. Thank God. I was surrounded at that time by love and support from people that were like, this is what it's going to be like, and if you can't handle it, hey, you know what? Whenever it's too much, you just say, it's too much. And that's what we need. So yes, we are all resilient. And yes, we will all get through these tragedies of life one day at a time, and some of us quicker, and some of us slower, and that's okay. There's no rush to getting this life. If it takes you 5 years to, work through something, and it took me a year or it took me 10 years, it's okay. You know what I mean? It's all part of living. There's no rush to it, And don't ever let anybody tell you that your feelings or your emotions for what you're going through are invalid, okay? Or that you're like obsessed with talking about this. I think whenever we go through something new and we have a lot of questions about it, or, like people that are newly sober or people that are newly married, I think that's a big one that I get a lot of questions about that from newlyweds. They're like, do you think we need counseling? Do we think we this, blah, 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 whatever, or new parents or whatever. Hell, listen, I have new parents that are friends of mine, and they'll be like, there's no book that says, and my mom used to always say this, if there was a book that said, read these, pages that your child would turn out perfect. There is no book like that. And my friends are like, I'm like, how do you learn this stuff? And they're like, you learn as you go and you ask other people, And I think there's that piece as well, and I think that we have to be grieving, I think, recovery, whatever, seeking counseling. I think we have to normalize these experiences with one another, and we have to normalize sharing our experiences, and we have to normalize being open to helping other people and not criticizing them. It's like, well, you should know because, whatever. No, these are experiences that are new to us, and overcoming those and being resilient to it. That part, okay, is learning how to put one foot in front of the other. But, when I have friends of mine that are like, I'm like, okay, I understand that your, mom passed away. I lost my mom too. This is what helped for me. And they're like, Peter, I hear what you're saying. And I understand that I should probably get up and take a shower today, but I literally can't get out of bed, right? And I'm like, you know what though? You picked up the phone and you called me. You picked up the phone and you reached out for help. So maybe today you can't take a shower. Maybe you just want to stay in bed all day. But maybe tomorrow you will, and maybe down the road next week you'll get up and you'll take a shower and you won't do your hair and you'll throw it back in a ponytail and you'll go outside and you'll take a walk for maybe 5-10 minutes, Slowly we grow, and we have to be considerate of our souls with that. So anyway, let me know what you think about that meditation in the comment section below. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. And I love you guys, and I hope you're having an amazing weekend. Bye.